Welcome back to my channel, Past, Present, and Future Gnosis. So let's get right into it. I want to thank everybody that's been watching my videos. My channel has been really blowing up, and I can see that you guys love this information, this unbiased information that you barely get from other YouTubers. So just want to say I appreciate you all and telling you we're doing this. We're going to figure all this out, what all this is about. So I just want to say thank you again, and let's get right into it. So now, I've been wanting to make this video for a while now. And if you've been keeping up with my videos and taking notes, as you should, because I deliver all this information for all of you guys for a reason. And if you've been taking your notes, I've been leaving little bits and pieces there for you guys to dissect. So in this video, we're going to just dive deeper, and we're going to try to figure all of this out when it comes to the Bible and all this esoteric stuff, and how the old world connects with the current world that we live in today. So let's get right into it. So now, when I was younger, actually, and doing all the studies, because I actually come from a Catholic background, and if I haven't really said it out, but I just had so many questions that some of my pastors wouldn't answer, I would say, or couldn't answer, let's just say. And then, as in growing up and in learning history and doing my homework, certain inconsistencies I started to see, as in places in the Bible historically says that's only in the Bible. Let me point that out. Says certain things happen here, but then when you look at history, documented history, it says otherwise. And there's just so much inconsistencies, and it just made me wonder, why is the Bible saying one thing with this history, but then when you do your homework and you do actual history, you're just looking at books and to date things, carbon date stuff, it's totally different. So I just wanted to point that out. So it made me want to go deeper and figure all this out. So I went on this long journey, and it's brought me here years, and it took me years of this research. And what struck me was the history of the Bible and this certain book, the Septuagint Bible, that I actually tracked down. And I hear some people talking about it. I'll give you that, but no one's going to give it to you in this context that I'm about to give you. And when you learn that this was one of the oldest documented, as I should say too, version of the Old Testament, but then you step back, you're like, no, it's supposed to be in Hebrew first. For Moses, of course, written down for Moses with the tribes, but we don't have that. And when you do the homework and you do the research, we don't have it. There's nothing to corroborate any of that. But the funny thing is, we have this Septuagint Bible, and what I might say is actually in Greek, not in Hebrew. And a lot of people are not going to tell you. You do your research; it's plain to see, but it's actually in Greek, Korean Greek, as I should say, actually. And what is Korean Greek? Korean was the most widely spoken form of Greek of late antiquity. Hence, it is called Korean, which in Greek means common. Korean Greek goes by many other names. So you can see how this is actually interesting when the Bible's telling you that it's actually in Hebrew, came in first, but actually no. Actually, the Old Testament is the oldest Old Testament is documented actually in the Septuagint and Korean Greek. So just wanted to point that out there. And what's interesting with the Septuagint also is its questionable upbringings. I'm about to show you guys soon, because once you watch this video, and I please watch the whole thing in its entirety, because you're gonna miss some crucial parts. And if you're really trying to figure all of this out, when it comes to the different versions of the Bibles, miswritten, actually adding stuff and taking stuff out, you're not going to want to miss this, because some of this news you haven't heard from, and apologists won't tell you, and I'm not even going to say your pastor probably won't tell you about this. So as we begin, so the funny thing is, where the Septuagint get its upbringings is actually in Egypt. And as I keep reminding you all, when it comes to all of this, I'm telling you, and I keep reminding you, if you keep watching my videos, you'll see that I speak about the Greeks and I speak about the Egyptians so highly, so highly. It's because if you research these two cultures, I'm telling you, it opens the floodgates to everything we've been talking about so far, and how it deals with the occult, which we're getting into a little bit later. I got to set this up for you guys, because I can't just throw in all the news that I have. And trust me, I want to deliver it to you guys so badly, but I have to give some type of foundation, if you will, because if I say it just already, then you're going to be like, oh, okay, but if I give you some little hints here and there and just lay the foundation, then everything's going to come together. So I just want to say thank you for being patient with me as I deliver all this news to you guys. So anyway, let's get right back into it. So as I said, the upbringings when the Septuagint is interesting because, like I said, it comes out of Egypt, Alexandria, Egypt, out of the library. And it's actually attested by Ptolemy II of Philadelphia. And you may ask who Ptolemy is, and Ptolemy II is actually the son of one of the generals of Alexandria, of course. And due to we all know about the Diadochi Wars, where I tell you, it's so funny when all the generals of Alexandria, after he died, were trying to split up the different sections, and Ptolemy I actually inherited Egypt after the fall of Alexandria, and Ptolemy II is actually, of course, his son, who actually reigned after him. But just want to give you a little bit of history right there. But so Ptolemy II, the son of the general of Alexandria that gave it to him during this time, had a library. And of course, we know the Library of Alexandria, and all these documents were here. All of these documents, and one of the librarians actually came to Ptolemy. I'll tell you, this is the story actually for the upcoming of the Septuagint, and actually called, if you look it up, it's called LXX, which means 72, but 70, but you'll see why it's actually 72. So you have Ptolemy's librarian having all these historical documents, and of course they want, of the Jewish faith, of the Jewish people, they wanted to have their own version of the Tanakh, of course, of the Old Testament. So he talks to Ptolemy II, begging him, hey, we need to get this. All right, we need to have this document. These people are highly credited people. Let's get this document. So, okay. After years practicing, thinking about it, but Ptolemy says, all right, let's do it. Let's finally do this. So it goes out to the 12 tribes. He finds 6 high elders from the 12 tribes, brings them into Alexandria, pays them marvelous. But then you think about it, I want to stop there. Because if you really think about it, how did he get all 6? Think about this, people. How did he get 6 elders now from all of the 12 tribes of Israel? If you know your history, a light bulb just went in your head, because at this point, they're all scattered across the place. They've been in so many wars. They've gone against God's covenant. Almost of them died. That's God. Sheesh. But like I said, they're scattered, and a bunch of scholars, not just me, a bunch of scholars are in agreement that this is an impossible feat. At this time, This is an impossible feat. He ain't just sending no via phone call messages like, yo, squad up, everybody, I need them all here. No, it didn't work like that around this time. And then like, how would you even point out, like, think about it, like, how would you even point out like the Jewish people from everybody else? I mean, like, everybody's practicing so many things. Paganism is going high right now. And remember, this is the Hellenistic area also. Don't forget, Greek is in control of Egypt and in control of Israel after they got it from the Persians. So don't forget about that now. And we all know what Hellenization is, as I may want to do a little segue. Hellenistic religion is any of the various systems of beliefs and practices of the people who lived under the influence of ancient Greek culture during the Hellenistic period and the Roman period, dated 300 BCE to 300 CE. Remember, I just said that Greek is in control of Israel at this point. So this is going to be a topic I'm going to bring back, but I had to lay this foundation for you guys. There was much continuity in Hellenistic religion. The Greek gods continued to be worshipped and the same rites were practiced as before. Change came from the addition of new religions from the countries, including the Egyptian deity Isis, Serapis, and the Syrian gods to the Targetus and the Hadad. So just want to let you know, they forced Hellenization on the people and all that they conquered. So let's keep remembering that. The worship of Hellenistic world was also a feature of this period, which notably in Egypt, where the Ptolemy II, as we're talking about right now, adopted earlier pharaonic practice and established themselves as god kings. Elsewhere, rulers might receive divine status without the full status of a god. And that's important now, because to be divine or be ordained by God, aren't you supposed to have his full blessings? But I digress. But this is important here. Magic was practiced widely, and this too was a continuation from earlier times. If you watch my last video, you see that I explained about alchemy, where it was practiced at in Egypt, and where chemistry gets all its foundation from alchemy. So remember, 300 BCE to 300 CE, all of this was being practiced. Everybody was indoctrinated about this. Everybody knew this stuff. This wasn't something new. Everybody knew about the Greek gods and what they stood for and all this magic. So, and while Israel, the 12 tribes were all around. So don't forget about that. Magic was practiced widely, and the two was a continuation from earlier times. Throughout the Hellenistic world, people which would consult oracles and use charms or figurines to deter misfortune or cast spells. So, and developed in this area was a complex system of astrology. Ooh, that's a big one. That's a big one right there, ladies and gentlemen. So now to continue where I left off, just wanted to show you about that the Greeks have control of this area. Don't forget. So he gets all these people. He frees thousands of slaves, gives them so much money so 6 elders from the 12 tribes can do a translation into Greek, and it happened, and that's how we get it. And now let's just take a step back and think about history for a second, ladies and gentlemen. I just explained to you that scholars across the board will tell you that this is highly unlikely. As I just explained, all of them are all scattered, all over the place, and you're telling me that you found 6 high elders from the 12 tribes. And if you know the Bible portion, that's why I flip-flop a little bit. If you know the Bible, you know that Moses actually left it to the Levites. So if you're telling me that he got 6 elders from the 12 tribes, from the Bible says, if you guys read it, it actually says that the Levites were in control of the scriptures and all of this. Because if you look into Deuteronomy 17:18, you'll see further references that would actually cooperate this. 17:18, 31, and 36. You can actually see where he actually leaves the foundation for all this, and in Malik 27. So that's where I thought was strange for me. That was a little inconsistent for me. And then another thing is, why would the 6 elders from the 12 tribes translate it to the Greeks? I thought they were the Gentiles. Like, what's going on? So you're telling me they're gonna break God's law again? I mean, like, in this way, in this form, it just doesn't add up, people. It doesn't make any sense at all. That's why you could see other scholars and myself, because I dive deep into this and look all this up and trying to put all this together, and it just doesn't add up at all. And then we all know that things are always lost in translation. So that was a big red flag for me. And like I said, and if you thought that, well, maybe, how do you know all this? I mean, like, where did you get all your information about this? And this is actually all documented, people. And it's actually documented in the letters of Aristeas. The letters of Aristeas, yes. This is actually the telling, and actually explains the Septuagint in detail and how it actually came to be, as what I told you about the librarian pressuring Ptolemy II to get this documented and to have it into their mass library, as with all their other documents. So let's actually look into the letters of Aristeas here now. The letters of Aristeas. This is going to be good, people. We're about to get deep. The letters of Aristeas of Philocrates is a Hellenistic work of the 3rd or early 2nd, or that you guys knew around the time, early 2nd century BC, considered by some biblical scholars to be pseudo-biographical. Oh, pseudo? You mean it's fake? What is pseudographic? Are falsely attributed works, texts, whose claimed author is not the true author, or a work whose real author attributed to a figure of the past. I'm telling you, people, look, something's crazy. The Septuagint's already looking a little bit dampered already. The letters is the earliest text to mention the Library of Alexandria. That's a good thing, because that's where we actually have it documented for that. So Josephus, who paraphrases about 2/5 of the letters of scribes, and I tell you about Josephus too. You need to watch that character a lot, but I'll continue. Scribes it to Aristeas of Marmora, and to have been written to a certain Philocrates. The letters describes the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible by 72 interpreters sent into Egypt from Jerusalem. Remember, 6 from the 12 tribes, so makes it 72. So just wanted to point that out. That's why it's funny how it says LXX, but it's actually 72. So that was a little red flag right there. But to continue, at the request of the Library of Alexandria, resulting in the Septuagint translation, as I said earlier, some scholars have since argued that it is fictitious. Let's say that again, people. Some scholars argue that it is fictitious. Why is that? Let's keep going, people. I want to skip down the history, but I'm skipping this part right here in grand details. In detail, the work relates how the king of Egypt, presumably Ptolemy II Philadelphus, is urged by his chief librarian, Demetrius of Phaleron, to have the Hebrew law translated into Greek, and so add the knowledge of the Hebrews to the vast collection of books the empire had already collected, as I explained earlier. But just wanted to make sure I gave you guys the evidence. Don't want you to think that me over here, past, present, future, is just bringing things out of nowhere. Now, this is when you're doing your deep scholarly research, people. as I continue. The king responds favorably, including giving freedom to Jews who had been taken into captivity by his predecessors and sending lavish gifts, which are described in great detail to the temple in Jerusalem, along with his envoys. The high priest chooses exactly 6 men from each of the 12 tribes, giving 72 in all. He gives a long sermon in praise of the law. When the translators, like, let me just say, like, it sounds, for me, honestly, it sounds like he's just kissing his ass. He's like, oh, I did all this for you. Look, I gave you guys money. I freed some people. Anywho, that's what it sounds like to me, just kissing ass. When the translations arrive in Alexandria, and the king sweeps for joy for the next 7 days, but philosophical questions to the translator, the wise answers to which are related in full. The 72 translators then complete their task in exactly 72 days. That's interesting too. 72 translators, 72 days. Remember, people, I keep telling you, look at numerology. Pythagoras were really highly in numerology, so that's interesting, just to point it out. The Jews of Alexandria, on hearing the law read in Greek, remember, I told you Korean Greek is in full effect. This is the Hellenistic era, people. I will say it again. The Jews of Alexandria, on hearing the law read in Greek, requested copies and laid a curse on anyone who would change the translation. So remember, this is supposed to be the translation straight from Moses, from the Levites. And they said, anybody who would change the translation, lay a curse on you. The king then rewards the translators lavishly and then return home. Elements of this narrative are retold in the Babylonian Talmud and Tractate Midrash. And it says here, to finish off, the main goal of the 2nd century author seems to be to establish the superiority of the Greek Septuagint text over any other version of the Hebrew Bible. The author is noticeably pro-Greek, portraying Zeus as simply another name for the God of Israel. Whoa, wait a minute. So you're telling me that they're comparing Zeus as simply another name for God of the Israels? What did I explain to you guys earlier? Other cultures, taking bits and pieces from other cultures, they're just borrowing it. Multiple gods meant to establish and look like the other god, had attributes, they didn't look like, I apologize, had certain attributes like other gods. That's why you can see the synchronicity when it comes to other people. So, just wanted to point that out. And with criticism is lodged against idolatry and Greek sexual ethics, the argument is phrased in such a way as to attempt to persuade, listen here people, to persuade the reader to change rather than as a hostile attack. The manner in which the author concentrates on describing Judaism, in particular its temple in Jerusalem, could be viewed as an attempt to parcel. And you may wonder, what do you mean by that? Is policy of attempting to convert people's religious or political beliefs? Why would you want to be converting? What do you mean, converting? I keep telling you, the Greeks, this is the Hellenistic people, and I'm going to be honest with you, the Septuagint had elements of the Greek and Hebrew fused together. Just want to point that out. So now, let's just take a step back real quick and dissect some things before we continue. You have the Septuagint being one of the oldest written down Old Testaments, written in Greek, Korean Greek. And you have Ptolemy II, Philadelphia, getting 6 high priests from the 12 tribes of Israel. And I just told you, the Levites have control, so that's already, boom, red flag right there. But I'll continue. And giving them all this lavish gifts. Remember what we just read. Gave them gifts, he freed some slaves, gave some money, gave them all of these things. But remember, this is the Hellenistic period. Didn't the Greeks just fight and just like get control of Israel and Egypt? I mean, like, why would you pay so much money? Listen to me now. Put your thinking caps on, because I'm telling you, if you haven't got globe that just lit up in your mind, let me explain to you. This is the Hellenistic period, ladies and gentlemen. The Greeks just invaded. They have full control of this whole area. The wars of Darius, all control of this area. Ptolemy has Israel and control of Israel and parts of Egypt. You're telling me that he paid and freed all these slaves when he could have just forced it? He could have found any of them, forced it upon them, then get any person that could actually read Hebrew to commemorate in to make sure that it's legit and then be on his way. Come on. You're telling, and remember, they're forcing their culture upon the people that they just conquered. Why would they let Judaism be on the rise when they're trying to establish their own religion and have it on the forefront? Come on, people. I mean, if you think, just take a step back. This doesn't add up at all. This sounds like, I'm not even going to lie to you, all of this is just in question now. And remember, the Septuagint was used a long time before any New Testament came out. And the New Testament was actually in Greek also. It's ironic, huh? That the earliest formed copies that we have of the Old and New Testament are in Greek. It's a little fishy, if I have to say it myself. So I just want to point that out. But yeah, like I said again, if you were general, all these people, and you're trying to instill Hellenization, your own culture, you would not let any other culture practice any of their stuff, any of it. And what's interesting also is that the Romans conquered the Greeks. Because remember, it's from 300 BC to 300 CE, around the Council of Nicaea also. I'll leave that for another video because I can just keep going on with the Council of Nicaea and talk about the inconsistencies, which I will be doing a video, actually, about that. So that'll be in the works. But yeah, it's just you will not want to have any competitors. So that just blew me away. And I was just critical thinking, people. Critical thinking. I mean, it's easy to just put one and two together. And this is history that you got to understand that's outside the Bible, because many of your apologists, many of your preachers, they're not going to tell you all this. Most of them don't even know. Oh, and if they do know, they're not going to give you this information. And that's why I give it to you guys, unbiased information. Because when I first learned this years ago, this was news to me. I was just like, huh? What? I thought we got this from Moses. Hebrew. No, it's in Greek. It's in Greek, people. So that's why you got to do your real history out of the Bible. Because if you just try to do history strictly in the Bible, you're going to miss out on all of this crucial information that's been documented. It's not just me. I keep telling you, it's not just me. There's other scholars that commemorate all of this too. And there's people that really want to know, want to dive deep into and try to figure out all of this. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there and explain to you and just see like, huh? What? What is all this? So, and to show you that the Septuagint was used by biblical scholars for a long time, I'll show you this article here. The Septuagint use in the New Testament, and it's from Biblical Authenticity, as you see here, just to point it out. Christian readers are often puzzled when they read a quotation from the Old Testament in the New Testament, and then in looking up the actual Old Testament, discover that it is somewhat different from the cited quotation. Often this difference is based on the fact that the Old Testament was translated from the standard version of the Hebrew Bible. Not the original, people. Remember, copies of copies. The Mosaic text, which I'll show you a little bit later, whereas the New Testament is citing the same passages as it appears in the early Greek translation of the Old, known as the Septuagint. This is where it gets good now here. The Septuagint of the Hellenistic Jews And by the early church, that's deep. Most scholars believe that the Greek translation of the Pentateuch was produced by true Jewish scholars in the mid-3rd century BC in Alexandria, Egypt. The rest of the Old Testament, along with some other books, including the Apocrypha, was completed during the following century or two. Some parts of the Septuagint reflect a more literal approach to translation, while others provide a freer rendition. Some portions are also more skillfully translated than others. Sometimes the Septuagint translations begin with a Hebrew text that differed. Oh, I thought we weren't supposed to change anything. Remember earlier that they said that if they change anything, they put a curse on it. But I tell you, people, I digress. Text that differs slightly from the standard Masoretic text of the Hebrew Bible. Bam. Right there, people. So you can see this was used. This was one of the basis Old Testaments that they used. And like I just explained earlier, all of this is in question. All of this is in question. They just doesn't add up, people. It just doesn't add up. And if you've been listening to me and you've been like, okay, maybe I've seen things that you laid down, it does seem a little bit fishy, and it just has to. But if you wanted more validation, I'll show you some scholars that cited all of this too, and also put all this in question. So back onto here with the criticism portion. Scholars have noted that Demetrius of Phaleron, a client of Ptolemy I Soter, is not a good candidate as a collaborator with Ptolemy II of Philadelphia. Roger S. Bengal notes that Demetrius made a strategic mistake at the beginnings of Soter's reign. Supporting the ruler's older half-brother, it was punished with internal exile, dying soon afterward. I'm going to skip here a little bit. You guys can read it, but I'm a little bit strapped for time. But here it is right here, people. Let's do it. Modern scholars commonly agree the letter of Aristeas as a work typically of Jewish apologetics aiming at self-defense and propaganda and directed to the Greeks. Remember now, I keep telling you, they used this. The letters of Aristeas was to commemorate and to back up why Ptolemy made the Hebrew Bible and how he was to help the Jewish people, give them all these gifts. Remember, freeing all these slaves. But now you're telling me that the letters that are trying to prove it are fake and as a work of propaganda? Damn, that's just crazy, people. You got to do your research. I'm telling you. Here are some instances illustrating this general view. In 1903, Farrell wrote that the glorification of Judaism in the letter was no more than self-defense. Though the book does not mention the antagonists of Judaism by name, nor does it admit that it, in its intention is to refute direct attacks. Saint sees in the letters a special kind of defense which practices diplomatic tactics. This was strategic, people. This was intentional. And Tremorty also speaks of an apologetic propagandist tendency. Vincent characterized it as a small, unapologetic novel written for the Egyptians, the Greeks in Egypt. Ferry says, this fanciful story of the origin of the Septuagint. Let me bring that back. This fanciful story of the origin of the Septuagint is merely a pretext for defending Judaism against its heathen denigrators, for extolling its nobility and reasonableness, and for striving to convert Greek-speaking Gentiles to it. Ooh, that's the big one. It's striving to convert Greek-speaking Gentiles to it. Ooh, let that sink in for everybody. Skill classes the letters with a special kind of literature, Jewish propaganda in pagan disguise. It's wolves in sheep's clothing, people, whose works are directed to the pagan reader in order to make propaganda judged among the Gentiles and Jews. Two believes that the role of a Greek was assumed by Aristeas in order to strengthen the force of the argument and commend it to the non-Jewish readers. Even Gottman, who rightly recognized that the letter sprang from an inner need of the educated Jew, sees it in a strong means for making Jewish propaganda in the Greek world. So now, after reading the criticism area, what is there more to say, people? I just showed you that the Septuagint was used highly for years, 300 BC to 300 CE, until we had another one that showed up later, which was the Leningrad Codex. And we're here on Bible Manuscript Society, so you all can see. The Leningrad Codex, also called the Codex Leningradius, is the oldest complete, remember that, of the Hebrew Bible of the Old Testament in Hebrew in existence. It dates to around 1008 through 1010 AD, people. And this date is confirmed by the as the internal and external evidence. That's about the time the Crusaders were starting to march from Europe on their way to conquer the Holy Land. Hebrew Bible editions such as the Leningrad Codex were in use by Jews across the Middle East. Why take so long, people? Think about this. To have an Old Testament written down in Hebrew, and it took them till 1008 through 1010 AD. Remember, the Septuagint was going on 300 BC to 300 CE, people. Come on. Because of the Hellenization that was going on, because Rome continued Hellenization of the honoring of the Greeks' culture and instilling it into the people that they conquered. You can't forget that, people. Do not forget that. Because the Leningrad Codex is the oldest intact, complete edition of the Hebrew Bible, it is frequently used as the basis for modern editions of the Hebrew Bible. For instance, the Biblia Hebraica Septuagint, the BHQ, the BHL are also based on the Leningrad Codex. Modern Bible software such as BibleWorks Accordance and Logos all have electronic editions of the Leningrad Codex based on a text created by the Westminster Theological Seminary and referred to as the Michigan Clarence Westermann Electronic Hebrew Bible. However, the Leningrad Codex, also the complete, is not the best quality Hebrew manuscript. Although carefully handwritten, it was corrected against the Aleppo Codex, and Aleppo Codex remains the best quality manuscript exemplar. Other better quality manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible are also available, such as the Lisbon Bible. Thus, the main claim to fame to the Leningrad Codex is that it is the oldest complete Hebrew Bible. So now telling you that, and we already know about the Council of Nicaea, and it's pointed out, like, I need to touch on that. I'll have to do it on the next video. But the Council of Nicaea used the Septuagint too, and then once you see how they chose their Bible, oh my God. I mean, people, I can't make this up. You're going to go crazy once I make that video. But yeah, so back into all this, and like, as I showed you, scholarly work, people. This is all Jewish propaganda in pagan disguise. The most used Bible for the longest time, the Septuagint, is now in question, people. The letters of Aristeas are pseudo. So now, if you're telling me that if these 6 elders from the 12 tribes didn't write this or made it up, I don't even think they got that many elders. I don't even think they got any of the Israelites to get there. And to be honest with you, and this is not me just spouting, this is just me coming with my own 2 cents of putting all this together. This doctrine was made up on the fly, ladies and gentlemen. The letters of Aristeas just showed you that all of this stuff, these gift giving, this ass kissing, like I just explained to you earlier, this was all fabricated in a form of propaganda. It doesn't get any deeper than this, ladies and gentlemen. But then I'm gonna say you're gonna have people, oh no, it was written in Hebrew first, but we don't have it, ladies and gentlemen. And I told you in this channel, I'm gonna give you evidence. I'm not gonna spout things where you have to really just, oh, maybe. No, I want to show you hardcore facts. And here it is, people. The hardcore facts that the Septuagint was the oldest recorded. I'll say that because we don't know if they had any other Hebrew manuscripts in Alexandria, the Library of Alexandria. I will point that out. It doesn't document that. So, but you can look the letters of Aristeas in great detail yourself. It's online. And I read a lot of books, and I know some of you guys can't afford some of my books. If you've seen my channel, I point out a lot of books where I get this information. So I want to give you guys sources that you guys can look up on your phone and on the go, because I know a lot of people don't have enough time to read a book. I mean, like, that's where I get all my information from, is reading books and watching other education videos from other scholars. I always look for multiple scholars that corroborate all of this. I don't just stay in one little bubble. I have to broaden my range for all this information, and that's where I get all of this, is doing the homework, ladies and gentlemen. And if you do your homework too, there's not a shadow of a doubt that you're going to come to the same conclusion as me, that I was just continuing to say, that this was all fabricated, ladies and gentlemen. All this red flags, it doesn't add up at all. Like I said, we don't have the copies of the original Hebrew Bible, so manuscripts, I can't put that down there. All I can show you is the evidence that we do have. And for you guys to just take this information and then come to a conclusion, and I promise you, you're going to come to the same conclusion, that this is all fake. But what concerns me the most is that it came from the Greeks. This is why I keep telling you guys, you have to pay attention to the Greek. You have to understand Greek culture and the Egyptian culture, and Rome too. I'll put it in there. They're part of it too. But esoterically, in all of this, the hidden agenda, you're going to see that the Greeks played a big role. And to see that the Old and New Testament was first written in Greek, that right there should just be like, huh? What? No. Like I said, apologists won't tell you this. Pastor's not going to tell you this, of course. He ain't going to tell you to do your homework. But that's the thing that separated me, is I had so many questions that I would never get any answers from, especially when it came to like history out of the Bible, not just in it, out of it too. And no one can say, oh, I'm not reading it right. The Holy Spirit isn't with you. I'm just like, come on. I'm just like, stop. Come on. If this is word right here in the Bible, I should be able to look back in history and see this too. Now, I'm not saying there isn't some things that stick. Yes, there are multiple things that stick, but this one in particular just really hit home, ladies and gentlemen, when it came to the background of the Old Testament and how it came to be. And like I said, you can all do the homework yourself. It's all out there. And then, like, there's so much I haven't even touched, but I want to even continue. So, yeah. But once you think about it, then, so if this is all fake, then what is it? Then what is all this? And this is what my channel is about. As you see, I laid the foundation. I showed you earlier about the Dead Scrolls. A couple of videos I did earlier about how the Dead Scrolls were forgeries too. I mean, it's right there. There's just too many inconsistencies, people. And that's why I had to just do my homework. And then I'm telling you, once you do the research out of the Bible, like, a lot of things start to open your mind. And you start thinking a lot and pondering. What is all this? there's what's this bigger picture? What did the Greeks have a hand in the Old Testament and the New Testament? And then that, about Hellenization, and I'm going to say it right now. If you don't think in that Bible that elements of the Greek culture are not in there, you're crazy. Just told you, the Hellenistic was going on rapid around this time when the making of the Septuagint. So elements of Greek culture is installed in there. And in the New Testament also, if it was in Greek, if everybody's speaking in Greek, remember, going in Greek, and if you're writing, you had to take lessons, right? You had to learn their culture, right? I'm just saying, not everybody knew how to write. You had to learn some type of education, right? So they had to go to schooling to learn. And what are you going to learn? Greek. Come on. I mean, people that's why I tell people you got to do critical thinking and research at the same time, people. Because this is crazy. This is crazy in itself. But yeah, there's so much I haven't touched, but I feel like if I give you guys just the amount I give you there, you guys could just go off from there and then dive deep more into it. Because as I see here, I'm here to give you guys the information, and don't have to believe me, but I just take the information I laid out for all of you and do your research. And I promise you, I can't stress this enough. When you really dive deep in it, and can't be biased, this is reoccurring for me. Don't be biased. Don't start reading like, oh, it goes against my belief. Oh, I'm going to stop here, so I'm going to go somewhere else. No, keep reading. I'm telling you, you got to take the chance. Keep reading. If you're serious about this, of your studies, then you're going to go further. And I commemorate everybody that's come this far and you've watched my channel, because that means you're thinking about this. If you're watching this video, that means you had some concern or some type of, I don't want to say doubt, but interest in all of this. And you're trying to figure out what is all of this too. You're on the right path. Keep doing your homework. I'm telling you, we're going to be on this journey together, all of us together. We're going to figure this out. And I'm telling you, once you've opened yourself to other stuff outside the Bible, you have to jump back and forth. I can say that too, do your history. You can jump back and forth, but when you do some critical scholarly work, you'll see that everything starts to open up. So just wanted to get this video out. As I said, thank you for the new watchers. I hope that I've given you some information that you guys can go out and do your own research. But I felt compelled to get this out because nobody's talking about this. Nobody's going to give it to you in the context that I gave it to you. I promise you that. No apologist, no preacher. Talk to them about it. Bring this up. Question them. See if they know. I'm telling you, man. Because once you know, I'm just telling you, once you know, you just know. I'm telling you. Especially like when you know this information, and like you can tell when people don't do their research. And it's came across me multiple times, ladies and gentlemen. I can't stress to you. I go to them and I say certain verses or from the Bible, and just like, huh? You said that? Yeah, that was said. You don't read your Bible? You don't read the book? Oh no, it's collecting dust. You don't read it. You just go to Sunday and you let the preacher read it for you. You don't go home and do the research yourself. You let someone else read it for you. How are you going to learn, people? Because they're going to, you don't know what pages they're skipping out from. Read it through order, like I did. And you're going to see a lot. And next videos, we're going to be talking about verses that the early Christian sects were concerned about. Because as you just seen that, it's all Hellenized Jews that were reading this Bible. This is all they had at the time. So there's no football, there's no games, there's no distraction around this time. That's another reason why I commemorate these people, because all they had around this time was to read. Don't be afraid of like oncoming armies too, of course. Like they're on their toes, ladies and gentlemen, really on their toes. But yeah, but they had all the time in the world to take the time and really dissect all this. And then we're going to talk about the Gnostics too, and then you're going to see why the Gnostics thought what they did. And you're going to be like, the Gnostics had something going. And I'm telling you now, the Gnostics had a lot going. And we're going to be touching upon that on the next video that I'll be making, but I just had to get this out, people. So yeah, again, it's interesting information here, people, and then just do the research and let's figure out what all this is together. And let's talk in the comment section. What do you guys have to say about this? Is this alarming? Did you guys know about the Septuagint? Or were you just stuck about the King James Version? Don't get me started with King James too. I'll be making a video about King James. You'd be surprised to see the helping hands that came upon the King James Version of the Bible that everybody seems to use. Everybody praises so highly. It's the masterful book. Ooh, it's the best. Oh, he's been praised by the Lord. Put his hands on it like, and I show you the facts about the King James Version. It's going to blow your mind, ladies and gentlemen. But again, that'll be for the upcoming videos. But thank you for taking the time to watch this video. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Okay, guys. Thank you.